Welcome back, everybody. We're doing it again. A little more Mega Man this time. We're going to be joined by TempestMask, running Mega Man Xtreme 2. Tempest, take us away.
My pleasure, I'm doing it. Alright, everybody, you might have heard my voice before, but in case you forgot, hey, I'm Tempest. Some of you know me as Steve, and I am very happy to be given the honor of closing off tonight's Mega Man block with something that I think is definitely going to throw some of y'all back. Some of you may not know that this is actually one of the first speedruns I did for Game Over Cancer, but this time, we're going to bring it full circle. So, quick introduction, this is Mega Man Xtreme 2, also known as Rockman X2 Soul Racer for the Game Boy Color, launched in 2001. Today I'm going to be doing, as thanks to your generous donations, the 100% Extreme category. So, earlier the plan would have been to do Extreme No Credits Warp, but we had a donation incentive where I would instead go to collect everything if met, and so we will be doing that for you all today. And so, with that in mind, I am also not alone. I have a good friend of mine, a longtime partner in crime when it comes to this video game, Focus.
Hi everyone, my name is Focus, or Focus Site. I was former record holder in the category that we've actually upgraded to today, so hopefully I should be able to give some insight into what the run is like. This is one of my favorite Mega Man X games. It is a unique title that does so much on such a little handheld, and it's beautiful looking for the platform. Capcom just was really ruling on the Game Boy Color at the time, so I'll be providing informative, supportive commentary for the run here today.
Absolutely. Now, before we get started, I do want to make a quick mention. So the reason I am a little bit behind was because originally I was going to run on the Japanese version. However, unforeseen circumstances had it where the program I was running it off of unfortunately did not recognize the save file. This is important because this game has a built-in save system, and that's how it also recognizes when the player is able to do Extreme mode. So, you're all in for a treat. I don't usually run off this version, but we'll be doing it off of my childhood cartridge on my Game Boy player, so you're all going to see the funny translated English text. It's not abysmal, I assure you that much, but you'll see what I mean. So, we're going to get this thing started, and I'm very, very excited for you all to see it, but, you know, heaven or hell, for better or for worse, let's get this Duel 1 started in 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, so, with the show on the road, let's get some housekeeping rules out of the way. This was released before Mega Man X6 as a game taking place canonically in between X's 3 and 4, which is why you're seeing Iris alive and well right now. This is actually her first time working with Maverick Hunters in a sort of internship-like program, if you will. So this is well before the whole Repliforce situation unfolded, and we're gonna get started in an intro stage that feels a little bit inspired by that of what X2 had, which funnily enough we did kind of sort of start off this whole X blocks with. So you're going to see some familiar themes being remixed in the Game Boy Color's sound chip, or sound capabilities at least, and this is a game that effectively takes inspiration off of both the Super Nintendo and PlayStation era games, but with a main level concentration on the Super Nintendo stuff for obvious reasons once we get into our 8 Mavericks. Other than that, I should very much bring attention to my movement, which dashing is unfortunately not relegated to a dedicated button, unlike the previous Mega Man Xtreme 1. As such, I will have to resort to a couple of methods, this being double tap dashing, which is a bit of a commonplace in Mega Man X games as per usual, as well as down plus A dashing, which it's mostly effective for ground movement, but it will actually have a solid purpose for a little skip that I'll be doing in the late game. That was Skullhead. I like to call him Mega Skeletor in honor of the whole Dogu the Giant tradition of how people would sometimes call him Mr. Fist in X3. And he, you know, I kind of just grew up on the 2000 T-Man reboot, as well as, you know, appreciating Mega Evolution. That's all you need to know about that. And so now, we'll be introduced to Gareth, a soul racer who claims he is destroying Mavericks that enter the property of Lagoo's Island here on the Southern Ocean. That is the main setting of our game. Of course, X and Zero are not necessarily going to trust him immediately, So he's just gonna say, alright, well, I'll tell you what, let's play a little game, and then we'll meet again, and I'll give you the information that you need to know. But I'm going to pass it on to Focus to effectively explain what it is that I'm going to be doing throughout the run itself in terms of a little something called DNA Souls.
Okay, so DNA Souls within, which is actually where the Japanese name Soul Eraser comes from, are collectibles that come from different enemies or drop from different things in the game. They come in the varieties of health and weapon energy, and if I remember correctly, you'll see them in 1, 2, and 3 varieties. Notably, the 1 is worth 4, the 2 is worth 8, and the triple is worth, I believe, 16. With that in mind, we actually need to, for this specific route, collect 2,000 over the course of the entire run. Defeating a boss gives you 200, and you can use these to buy parts at the parts shop. Note that you do not need to buy all the parts from the parts shop in order to complete 100%. What we consider 100% is you need to get all 8 heart tanks, all 8 upgrade capsules, all 8 heart tanks, and the special weapon capsule at the end, as well as the 2, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's not E-Tank. What's it called?
Sub-tank.
Sub-tanks, there you go. Very similar. Sub-tanks store excess health for later. This is what's considered 100% within the confines of the category. And so we're going to start off by defeating everything we can here in, Wire Sponge, excuse me.
No, you're all good. Honestly, I think the tendency to have trouble saying his name is a tendency to understand just how fearsome of a first Maverick he is. We'll talk about that in a bit, of course, but you may be familiar with the fact that, being one of the early Mavericks in X2 doesn't necessarily make him a friend to begin with. And that's within good reason. So Mavericks in this game, they kind of sort of have desperation moves. In Extreme mode, they actually have an extra move, which they may or may not showcase. It all depends on RNG, the action they decide to do with whatever cycle they decide to do in response. And Wire Sponges is more, well, it's already within the game. It's already going to be seen even if you face him in the non-extreme categories. So, and that of course being he can make himself invincible if a certain threshold of health will be hit. Now, how I'm going to try to avoid this is I'm going to wait for him to do a vertical climbing move as we come up to the fight itself. The most damage that I can do right now will be with a jump slash. So I'm going to only be able to get 5 off of him. Any more than that, and he will get angry. Alright, so that's...
For reference, the part that Tempest got earlier adds 1+1 damage to all of Zero's moves, which basically makes the jump slash do 4 damage rather than 3. With that 4 damage, we now have... every boss takes... Nicely done. Every boss takes 32 HP to kill, and so you need 8 jump slashes at this point to kill. The Desperation attack starts at 12 HP, and so we need to be able to do 5 slashes worth in very quick time to avoid having the animation play out and losing time.
Oops. That's the wrong menu. That's okay. Just a slight second loss, that's fine. So, quickly, we're gonna mention that this game does have a proper save system as per the cartridge's battery, which is a godsend for a couple of reasons. One, it gives you a little bit of safety in case your game, for some reason, decides to shut down and all that stuff, but on the other hand, it also has an autosave system. So checkpoints in this game, you'll notice, have a physical appearance sometimes. It's mostly when the screen flashes that you can expect a checkpoint to have occurred. The only time that these platforms do not appear, of course, being boss chambers. So as long as it's within what I believe you Focus once called a metal Oreo, and I've adopted the term since, it's...
I don't know if I've ever said that. Maybe a long time ago.
A long time ago. But it was... Whenever those platforms appear, and I activate a checkpoint through that, I can go back to the game via the soft reset, or if I have to hard reset, I could always do that. And, well, you know what, that's actually kind of faster, so I'm okay with this. But what was I going to say? It was the autosave system. So this game will allow you to autosave as long as you've hit a checkpoint off of a platform. You can only do this once, however. Once the autosave has been hit, or used rather, you're on your own for the rest of the way. So I will use this as a safety precaution in case I feel like I'd be saving more time getting back to the checkpoint rather than making the trek back. This is especially good for unexpected game overs, so it's one of the nicest thing about Xtreme 2, and honestly what makes it a good starter Mega Man X speedrun game in general, at least in my opinion. But right now we are in the ride armor, and you saw me use it to destroy a couple of breakable grounds. We've got some enemies within some ride armors themselves. You would probably see me try to collect health if I can, but I'm not going to stress it too much. But, you know, having collected the sub-tank, it is, as per usual, only going to fill up whenever my health collection involves a full health bar already, so, you know, not necessarily the nicest, unlike X4 and the PSX games, but hey, we roll with it. It's still good for safety regardless.
Yeah, the other thing I want to mention really quick before we get into the boss here, so dashing in Xtreme 2, it's a Game Boy Color game. You don't have a dedicated dash button. The reason why we start with a lot of Zero-specific stuff is because Zero has an air dash. It's double tapping A. It's rather quick and very consistent. But we'll talk about the other forms of dashing once we first talk about this boss and how we deal with every single Maverick in the game from now on. Zero now has a move unlocked called Zero Final. Zero Final does 10 HP of damage. It's normally a screen-clearing move. So you'd normally do it to kill all the enemies on a screen. But once you equip Energy Saver, which is the part we just bought, normally Zero Final is a one-use move. You can only use it and it wastes about 75% of your weapon energy. But if you have this part equipped, you can use it twice. 20 HP of damage done right there to every single boss. And with that, we only need 3 more jump slashes with +1 equipped to get everything we need. That is your bread and butter combo, so to speak, for every Maverick in the game from now on.
So
now,
the weapon
go on,
system,
sorry.
It's fine, it's fine. I was just going to quickly talk about the weapons. So, this is obviously a precursor of swapping action to that of Mega Man X7. This game was the first to do it, though, and as such, it doesn't have the same commodities that X7 itself does, in that, for instance, where in X7, normally both all playable characters would get the Maverick's weapon, in this game, it's only to the one that defeats the Maverick, so sometimes you will see me try to beat a Maverick as X. One of these situations is mandatory, though, for 100%. Technically 2, you already saw me do it, because 0, with the lightning technique from Sponge, that is required to get 0 Final. I can't use X, I can't use Strike Chain for that. So, there's that, and not much else. But also, any life ups that I gain to increase my health bar, that also only applies to a character, and that I believe was the case in X7, so...
that is true in X7 as well, yes. Every boss you defeat also gives you an improvement in life. Although it doesn't in this game, I don't think. That's in X7 only. But really quickly with dashing, since we're going to be getting the air dash for X, which is his foot parts. So dashing has 3 forms in this game, and none of them are a single button, which makes it very difficult if you're not used to, say, it honestly plays more like a fighting game in terms of its movement options than it does a typical Mega Man X game. The first is command dashing, which is double tapping forward. This allows you to do dash jumps, but it is very difficult to do in quick succession, just because it's a very arduous process in order to do that. The second kind is down A dashing. This works like slides do in the original classic Mega Man games. However, you can't actually jump after that. That's a nice sequence break that Tempest just got right now. That skips you having to wait for that to push you back. Well done, Tempest. Also, flashing lights warning. This is a Game Boy Color game. They did not think retinas existed at the time. Seriously though, if you have issues with flashing lights, this is your warning now. This game does get bad, and this is the first instance.
I'm gonna play this.
Basically, down A dashing allows you to go really quickly on level ground or on declines, but you can't dash jump after doing one. You have to to do something else afterwards if you want to jump with momentum. And so that's only useful for certain sections, not every section, unfortunately. And lastly, the easiest to do by far is air dashing. So you want to air dash with double tapping A. Zero has this unlocked from the start, which is why he's faster in the early game, along with the fact that he is basically our tank character. He will destroy all the Mavericks for us for the most part, and he's essentially the most reliable of the two in terms of damage combo for bosses. But we now have it as X, and that makes X also gets, in addition to doing regular just dashing with the air dash, you can also hold up while you double tap, and that can do something called, we call it the up dash. I don't know if that's its official name, but it allows you to do, it's like the one in X3, which allows you to dash directly up, and there are some skips in the game, such as the one coming in the next stage. Oh, nice fast text.
Heck yeah. So that's a phenomenon that we don't necessarily have the full-on science down for, but whenever it does happen, it does save just a bit of time. Not to the point that it's super-duper important, not yet anyway, but it would be nice to figure it out one of these days if we can ever manage. The idea is that you can't normally go through the text of the weapon get screen as fast as you saw right there, so if it's a bit of a... we think it's a bit of a stored input theory, basically. If that happens, that's just a nice thing, and yeah, one of these days is my sincere hope that we crack down on it. But for now, just a bit of a fun fact, at the very least.
If you're a software programmer with lots of time on your hand, could you please comb through the ROM for us and figure out why this happens? Thank you.
Oh, man.
There's a really nice skip coming up here, if I may explain. So I just mentioned we got as X, we got his foot parts, which allows him to do air dashes and also up dashes. So these platforms here, when you jump on them or land on them, it will switch input direction. And so we're going to use it to skip all this platforming section on our left. And then we're going to jump up dash, wall jump up here, and that skips all of that. It is a very nice skip to do. Mainly because, again, this mode is very neat because it allows you to... we don't have to do any revisits either. There's a lot of unique tech or, sequence breaking that you can only do if you have both characters. Which, for reference, the game initially, when you play it, only has a 0 mode and an X mode, and you weren't able to switch between characters until you reach the fortress stages at the very end, after defeating the Mavericks in each. So effectively, this mode is not only the full game, fully realized, as we'll see that it has the full ending, but also it's the first real Mega Man X game to have this mechanic of switching. Oh!
Well, that was
I think you could still get... Hey, I mean, you got really good luck. Unfortunately, wasn't able to go on it. This is one of the major instances of RNG. It will choose, in Extreme Mode, it will choose 2 of these turrets. It may only choose 1, because it also sometimes can choose turrets that are already down, which means that only 1 will light up. But that was decent RNG there. And this game is a bit fast, so I apologize if we're explaining things a little bit quickly, but we're trying our best here.
Yeah. Hey, you missed the 100% of the shots you don't take, as the saying goes, and we're just doing what we can accommodate for. But, yeah, this is Blast Hornet. Not the bees! Sorry, a bit of a forced habit there. So, that right there actually was a demonstration of how I mentioned that Mavericks in this game have an extra move that sometimes they can use, especially in Extreme Mode. That right there was Hornet spawning a couple of bee drones out of nowhere, and I think they were just gonna try to chase us. Ooh, that's 2 for 4. I like that.
Interesting. Coming up next is Overdrive Ostrich. Overdrive Ostrich is probably the hardest stage in this run, in my opinion, because there are a lot of damage boost skips, and with the current setup, there is a part that allows you to extend the invincibility frames slightly, but it's not worth losing that many souls to get. However, it is possible to skip a lot of the timed cycles here by taking damage at just the right spots. As you can see right there, we're gonna hit the I forget what these are called, these enemies.
Yeah, I'm forgetful myself.
I call them little piggies. Yeah, in order to skip that one, you need to get hit right off the end. That's too soon. You can chain to skip all 4 of these if you time it right. The most tense of which is actually up here, because if you don't wait here, you could potentially get hit on the way up. And this also means that we all now have all of Zero's parts. Unlike X, Zero doesn't have a special sprite for that state. And
Yeah,
thus, he will just look the exact same.
Yeah, not to mention that for some reason, Dr. Light decided to make Zero a full set of armor capsules. As strange as this sounds, all it really is just him recycling some of X's abilities. By the way, I'm doing this for the fans, no other reason.
Okay. We have a bit of time here for any messages or donations, if there are any. So I'm doing, if you have about 30, 40 seconds to talk, if you want to mention anything.
It doesn't seem like we got anything at the moment, which is perfectly fine. Alright, well, no biggie. We are, after all, at Overdrive Ostrich, and at this point, we actually do not have to destroy a giant rocket to get to his battle stage, which is a shame because I always thought that was the coolest way to enter a boss arena, but hey. Ostrich in Extreme mode is a little bit unpredictable sometimes. Unlike Zero mode where you can, or Zero mission where you can oh, that's a bad angle. Where you can sort of control his behavior, there are some instances in Extreme mode where you can't prevent him from going outside of the field. If he gets to do that, he's gonna sort of go into the background and then jump back in. Yeah, not, you know, that's the RNG we don't want to see from him, is what I'm trying to get at. So Dash here, this is a pretty cool technique. A fun fact about Dash is that in a Zero mission, you can potentially save a little bit of time if you swap the order in which you do Ostrich and Blast Hornet, because Rose Zorn, one of the runners of this game, who's also proficient in Persona speedrunning, she managed to find out that you don't have to do some of the platforming and can save maybe at least like 5 seconds or so worth, maybe less than 5 seconds per se, I can't remember the exact measurement. But it's a pretty cool little, a little small but nifty discovery, which I also consider fairly swaggy.
Could you repeat that?
Oh, you're talking about the dash?
Oh, in Zero Mission. Okay,
Yeah,
I
in
thought
Zero
for some
Mission.
reason this was in the current... so Zero Mission, again, is a different category. We don't do that in this category, which is
Right.
why I was confused for a second.
Yeah, it's all good, but yeah. We're getting the Buster parts here, and I should mention that there is a different part carrying capacity per each character. For Zero's case, he can carry up to 3 parts at a time. For X, he can carry up to 4, but one of the downsides to getting X's full armor is that once that happens, he can now only get 2. So it's with that said that technically, X has a little bit more mix and match utility to him, provided that you are playing as him unarmored, but that's okay, we still have a little bit of a strategy that will make do. You're probably wondering though why I am actually going across this lava field and taking damage to it instead of those fireballs. Oops, that was a bit of a locked input there. So, in Extreme mode, some other things within the levels will differ, and oddly enough, Capcom programmed those fireballs to instant kill you in... What the frick was that? That's never happened before. Plug your bingo card.
Yeah, so
for that one,
Capcom
folks.
essentially... Extreme mode is the game's hard mode as well. Certain things that aren't instant kill in the standard modes are instant kill in Extreme mode, the most notable of which is those fireballs. In either of in X Mission, we just ram right through them because they don't do much damage at all. But if you touch them and there isn't something else that's taking damage priority, in which case the floor does take damage priority in that specific instance, then you will instantly die and reload at the checkpoint. This is one of the first bosses we actually have to... Well, this is the second of 2 bosses that we had to defeat as a specific character. In order to get the next capsule part, or the next capsule, armor capsule, which, by the way, I just want to quickly clarify something that Tempest said. The confusing thing is that the game uses the term parts for both armor and the additional add-ons. We do have to get all the armor parts. We don't have to get these add-on parts, all of them, just for clarity. When we refer to part capacity, that is specifically the number of those add-on parts. Both X and Zero have 4 armor parts. With that said, though, this routing is only possible thanks to Extreme mode. The capsule we got in the previous stage, normally you have to get in X's mission, you have to beat this stage, you have to beat Mammoth first, come back to this stage to get this part, this armor part, then go back to Mammoth stage to unlock the part with the ability that this gives you, which is to break bricks. with your head, because metal's not big enough for that. You need a different helmet. Essentially, Extreme Mode is the only mode in the game. Well, Zero Mode actually can be... Zero Mission can be done without any revisits, but Extreme Mode can be done without any revisits, thanks to Zero having some upgrades that X doesn't, and therefore allowing us to enter as Zero and then collect as X, which is really cool.
Alright, now I gotta get this guy down. Come on, could you please cooperate? Thank you. Okay, so this log can only be destroyed by Fire Wave, but you're probably wondering, for those who've played the game, wait, isn't that the name of the technique that Zero also gets from Flame Mammoth? You would be right, but for some reason, the way this game is programmed only allows that thing to be destroyed by the one that X is allowed to use. So, if I got it from Zero, I would have been locked out, and that's never fun. Now, Zero's techniques, the reason I call them techniques instead of weapons is, yeah, like within the PlayStation games, Zero's moves are either done differently by either having them selected through the pause menu, or by doing a button combination while in real time. So, in the case of the Drill Crush, which I got from Tunnel Rhino, I'm actually pressing down plus B while in midair, and it's a very useful technique. Meanwhile, something like Tri-Thunder, which we got from both Catfish, X's version is leagues better. So, if in the case of Zero, it would be more like an automatic cutscene. I wouldn't... You get your mileage more from some things from X, but even then, it's because of this combination that we don't even have to worry about it. Alright, I'm just gonna switch early. That's no problem. Gotta be a little bit careful of my health, though, because I am just a tad low. And also, Tiger has a certain... Yeah, okay, we're good. Tiger also has a certain move that he can potentially scare us with, which he can also use in the X mission mode, which, yeah, it's a bit of a special exception, I guess. So, we are almost done with our 8 Mavericks. We are doing pretty good right now. The reason that you saw me beat Tiger as X, though, is that Rayclaw is going to have a special interaction on Launch Octopus, similar to how we do away with this guy in X1. Not in the speedrun. Speedrunners actually avoid the trick that I'm going to be doing, but the reason is that it's a lot more effective here in Xtreme 2. I'll explain a bit more. Well, actually, I'll have Focus explain, but once we get to
I'll
the
let you
boss
concentrate
order,
on that. For now, though, water. We do have water in this game. There are water physics. The oddity about water physics is, I should say, that entering from the air with a jump or a dash into the water doesn't apply the water physics immediately. So you'll notice that Tempest went way faster in the air there, falling down, than he did after he landed and moved in the water. This is just a quirk of the game. In the Taz, you actually use momentum jumps, which we mentioned earlier. Momentum jumps are the way in which you can maintain momentum using frame-perfect inputs to essentially do a dash jump immediately upon landing. The Taz would actually just would just constantly do those to keep the air momentum in the water. Unfortunately, that's not super feasible for the for RTA, but if you can get one momentum jump after landing from the air, it's usually pretty good to do so. You might notice this is the exact same secret boss you get in X1. It gives you a capsule in that game as well, and we get the final part of X's armor here, this is essentially his second armor from X2, which is a strange choice given that this is after all those games. But he gets essentially the look is, I believe, from the second armor. We're gonna let these fish. Ooh,
That's
happens. Okay. I've had this happen to me in recent practice as well, so don't worry about it, bud. You want to avoid spikes because spikes are instant kill in both extreme mode and not extreme mode. But we're gonna let these fish drag us over some of the more dangerous parts, and before they swallow us in, we'll shoot them so that we can fall down and quickly go through this area. If you go up top, there's a mini-boss, but that takes far too long for us to actually do anything with. We're not going to fight the same boss again, and what did we get? We got good patterns. Okay. Ooh.
That's okay. I'm just gonna give you a fair warning, by the way. My headphones are giving me a low battery warning, so if it sounds like I'm going quiet for a bit, it's probably because I'm gonna wait to make sure that I can hear Discord again or something like that. But just fair warning, pick the worst time to do so as well. Marathon luck.
Happens. So we're now going to go up here, and we're going to jump through... Oh, okay, never mind. The screen stopped scrolling. Funny. So if the screen scrolls, you can pause and unpause in order to force the screen to stop scrolling and put you back to a neutral position on that screen. That saves time if you go through with the screen scrolling. Here, though, we're going to use Rayclaw, and we're going to make Calamari, because the most effective thing... During this animation where he's losing his limbs, he's fully vulnerable still. And so we switch to 0 shortly after, and before he can even attack again, he's completely done. That's genuinely the fastest way to defeat this boss, because in Xtreme 2 at least, the boss attack which causes this tornado underwater, this cyclone, which makes him completely invulnerable. And it's best to just avoid that by getting Rayclaw and using it like this, rather than trying to go without it, in my opinion.
Alright, so now that we've defeated all 8 Mavericks, we are going to take the fight to the Soul Erasers themselves. We should probably mention, by the way, that the second Soul Eraser that showed up within the cutscene that played after the first 2 Mavericks I defeated, that's Perkana. She's the creator of Gareth. She was a former Reploid scientist of the R&D lab on Lagoon's Island here before she became a little bit power-hungry with the discovery that using the DNA of Reploids, which in this series lore, Reploid DNA is not only what gives them their personality, but like it also acts as their actual DNA. It turns out that by messing with that stuff, she can empower herself. So, she and Gareth have been stealing souls, and thus has caused what was known as the Erasure Incident, where public Reploids have suddenly stopped becoming mobile, kind of like puppets from Lies of P that suddenly lose themselves, I guess, except, you know, they don't act berserk and stuff. I don't know, I was trying to make a more modern comparison, if anything, to modern gaming. But, yeah, we are... Perkana is supposedly the bad guy of this game, which is interesting, because it also kind of makes her the first notable main female villain. Of course, others would make mention to Farum from Mega Man X Command Mission, which I would too. However, they also painted Farum as a sympathetic villain, supposedly. They tried to anyway. I can't say I have a good read on how well that worked for me, but she's a bit of a fan favorite character, so of course I also respect the I respect the popularity, and also that Command Mission is a bit of a hidden gem. So there you go. Anyhow, that was Velgarder. Surprising that they summoned a servant of Sigma into this lab, despite him not even being here. But you know, I mean, hey, I appreciate the appreciation for animals. Wolfos are like doggos and all that good jazz, so yeah. Now, we're coming up to the second lab stage. Yeah, go ahead, Focus.
We have a very, really neat trick here. Oh, you're doing it as 0. Okay. Okay, that is much riskier, but he still got it, so that is another form of damage boosting, effectively. I would actually do that as X, because for some reason, X's air dash is slightly longer, and so it's a bit safer in that regard. You take damage from 2 specific bats, which are very hard to nail down normally, in order to avoid having to wait on the platform and slowly slide to the right. And that saves you a lot of time, but if you die, that does lose a bit of time. That was perfectly executed by Tempest right there. Also, in this section, you'll see the up dash come into use again. These platforms are very difficult if you get a bad cycle to actually climb without it. We're going to use X here throughout this portion, mainly because we want to save health for 0. I don't know how you initially survived that, but that was very close.
That's funny.
Yeah, so we're going to wait here for... we're going to go through this, yet again, another flashing lights warning. There is a lot of flashing lights in this Game Boy Color game. We're going to go through here, and it's very similar to the section we got in Tunnel Rhino. If our host is here, I think we have time for a donation or an announcement before this boss.
Of course, I do just want to remind everybody, we are here over the entire weekend supporting the Canadian Cancer Society. So all the donations, everything is going to a great cause. Let's keep pushing for a great weekend. It looks like our milestone marker right now is still at $1,500. Let's try to push for that before the end of the night.
I fully agree. And yeah, folks, even though we did meet all the event incentives, I still say any contributions that we can make to the Canadian Cancer Society is just absolutely appreciated. I've had a couple of family members that we sadly did lose to cancer, so anytime I get to do Game Over Cancer, I always do it in their honor. And some of my family members have also survived cancer as well, so anything that we can do to kick its butt once and for all one of these days, is always a good thing. So let's see what we can do.
I also want to
for
say
that.
congrats to while we were doing that, just casually completing one of the hardest bosses in the run. That boss has 2 heads, and they both individually need to take damage. If you use Zero Final on them, it'll only do 4 damage per head. So you need to aim it in just the right way in order to get both. Unfortunately, it only got the bottom head, but even then, Tempest recovered and was able to do it pretty quickly. Sphinx Tank, I think the name is Izez and Zawilo, typically,
Yes.
but most people just say Sphinx Tank. It's one of the more infamous bosses in this game, especially in X Mission and Zero Mission, where you have to fight them both. But we bought our final parts here. As you can see, X only has 2 slots once he's fully upgraded. So for the time being, we're going to use +1 and +2, which add +1 and +2 to all of X's attacks. And in particular, we're only really going to need his base Buster in order to get Burkana here, our favorite girl boss. So at this point of the game, this normally would go into whichever mission you selected. So for instance, if this was Zero Mission, no matter who you enter into the section as, you'd go to Zero section and only play as Zero. If it's X Mission, you'd only play as X. In Extreme mode, it depends on who you enter that cutscene with. And we want to enter it as X in order to get the final armor capsule. So this game, much like some of the other Super Nintendo Mega Man X games, has some of the Street Fighter moves, the Shoryuken or DP, and the Hadouken or Fireball. So we're going to get it here in order to get 100%, and it's also useful in 100% Extreme mode for the eventual refights we're going to have to do. Normally, and if you did X Mission, this would be the final boss. Okay. Breathe, Tempest. You're all good. I'll keep on talking for now so you can concentrate.
Please, please.
Basically, yeah, all these walls are instant death if you didn't know, except that one, which is where we're going to get the Street Fighter moves from. So the DP and Fireball both do 16 damage to the enemies that we're going to refight because, spoiler alert, in Extreme mode, it doesn't normally end when you defeat Burkana or Gareth if you're playing as Zero. It then continues on to the true ending, which is... It was Sigma. It was Sigma all along. And so during the refights, which are, a necessary part of every Mega Man X game, you can... or pretty much every Mega Man game at that point, you can use the moves by adjusting some settings, as we will do after this fight, and giving us the ability to charge and then not even have to do the full moves. It's a very easy set of inputs, as we'll learn. So this is Burkana. Burkana is, again, the first real villainess in the Mega Man X franchise, and outside of Command Mission, one of the only. She attacks us with the alphabet and also spike balls. So if you get hit by the button, if you get hit by the orb, you then lose the ability that it represents. So if you get hit by an A, you lose the ability to jump. If you get hit by a B, you lose the ability to shoot. You can still attack with Tornado if you get hit with A, but with B, you just have to sit there and wait for it to run out. The easiest way to do it is you can just jump, not even air dash, not even up dash. You can just jump and hold B, and if you should be able to skirt her right on the edge of her skirt or whatever she floats upon, and it should be able to hit her hitboxes. So now we're in the final section. This is exclusive to Extreme mode. They realize it's Sigma, and they're so surprised because they always are. You think after, I guess this is only 3 games in at this point, chronologically, but by like X7, they should know.
Now is the time to destroy.
It is now is the time to destroy. But at this point, we're going to quickly switch a lot of parts. So we're going to actually use... X gets a nice little adjustment here. We're going to use +2 plus hypercharge. And I'm assuming you're dying so that you can get lives back, right? So if you die in this game with nothing, you can have retry and you will immediately start from the last stage you were in, which Tempest is doing for safety. We're going to, at some point here, we're going to adjust the settings to re-enable auto charge, because for most of the game we use auto fire. So auto fire is basically we don't have to spam B to attack with B, which is really nice, especially on X. So when we turn both of them on, we now can do charge moves, which for this, if we want to use the Shoryuken and Hadouken, you don't have to do a DP. You don't have to do 2-3-6 or 6-2-3. You just have to get a full charge when he's flashing bright pink, and press up or down when you shoot. That's it. The Shoryu is slightly faster than the Hadouken, just because it comes out instantly. So if you're standing in the enemy while you do the Shoryu, and it's their and they've already been hit by one of the other moves before, then you will instantly be able to use it. Notably, you don't have to be at full health either to use them. You can use them with any amount of health, which is funny, but it allows you to do strats like this where you can just stand near or next or in or next to the enemy and just wail on them. And that is what we do for the next set of refights. I just want to say to everyone, thank you for supporting this foundation and for continuing to donate and show support for such an important cause. I myself, too, have lost a lot of family members to cancer, and I think it's really important that we try to raise war awareness and get more research so that people not only can beat cancer, but live longer after diagnosis and get back to a healthy state of life. Tiger here is actually one of the biggest instances of RNG in this, because we want him to immediately fall down so that we can instantly, as you see right there, do a Shoryu to immediately get it. We also, in this section, also switch to, we switch to Ray Claw. This is actually in English, which, by the way, I should mention, Japanese version is faster due to faster text. I think it's only faster by a minute, though. It's less than something like Mega Man X7, which the difference is about 2 minutes between English and Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
So normally we would run this game in Japanese, and there is a few differences. So I was going to actually make the usual bit I do. Here's one of the few places that I use. I would normally use Hadouken here if he's done the chain move, because it doesn't block it, and it'll just go underneath it, and so be able to still hit him. In the Japanese version of the game, one of the most interesting, weird oddities is that the music for Flame Mammoth and Launch Octopus is actually switched. So I was normally going to say, this music doesn't sound right, but in the US English version, it actually does sound okay, because it's proper.
Right.
So that I'm glad I didn't make that joke, that I normally would, but, you know.
True.
Yeah, also the credits warp, which is what the category was before. Credits warp is essentially in those refights. This is not a joke. In those refights, pause, select exit, and on the original Japanese release, you will warp to the credits. And this is likely because the game, instead of having a set, instead of having a set arena to face the new Mavericks in, or the previous Mavericks in, they warp you to the old stage, which allows you to press exit, and exit likely just instantly finishes the current stage, which means that you instantly finish the final stage of the game.
All right.
Just like that.
Coming up to, we just did Neo Sigma from X2 yet again, but this time we're coming up to a original final form. I just want to say major flashing lights warning, because Capcom kind of made a choice with how this guy takes damage. So if you are photosensitive,
please, epilepsy warning, for real.
Look away.
Up dash. There we go. Yeah, no, every time this boss gets hit, it It is a big flashing light on the screen. Time is coming up soon, by the way.
Yeah. Time
So
will
whenever
be
we
on the
get,
final
whenever
screen.
we reveal Sigma, weirdly enough, Sigma has a very strange weakness in this boss. So instead of it just being Zero's regular slash, it is in particular his air dash slash. This is actually a good thing. We want him to get pink because then we can use Zero the entire time. So specifically the air dash slash is double tapping A and then immediately pressing B. This is a distinct move from jump slash. So
one more hit.
Yeah, be careful though. Oh, actually, this should be fine.
I'll still pop it anyway, just to play.
Yeah,
it safe.
use one of your sub tanks. Again, time is very soon.
It's not every
I
day
think
he
we
uses
just
this
let
move.
him go through. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, really?
Oh, be careful.
Oh, that's the one we didn't want to see.
he's over there though. What are you talking about?
Wait, can I still... Okay.
And then yes, should
time.
be able to time. I think that's a PB on the
That's a
English
PB.
version, which is surprising. Let me just check really quickly. But that is time. That is the run, everyone. Let me just really check, because I think Tempest may have just PB'd on the slower version, which is indicative of how much he's improved as a runner. I'm actually quite proud of that.
Aw, shucks.
I'm just trying to check right now for him.
I
But that
don't
is Mega
think-
Man Extreme 2.
I don't think I posted
One of
that
my
officially,
favorite
so
and
I...
very cool Mega Man games. So, you don't have a run on the leaderboard for this.
I kind of goofed. So wait, this isn't the first time I've done this run. I have done this before, especially for a marathon. As I think it was Carter's Pixels for People, probably. Whatever the case, I'll have to look back at this on my own time because I'm
It
so
may be a
terrible.
PB on the version which you lose maybe a minute to text, which
This is definitely a
really
PB
good.
on that
You
version.
should definitely should run this back at some point. Supreme job! Now that Sigma has been defeated, true peace has been restored.
Until the
So
run,
now
of
I
course.
have a present for you. This is an awesome mode where you fight against 8 bosses. How fast can you defeat them? Good luck. So that
So what I
unlocks
was
the
just
boss
talking
rush
about
mode,
is
the boss attack mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the last section on that main screen. But that's Mega Man Extreme 2, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say one more special... Oh, well, not one more, but, like... I make it sound like this is going to be my last run here. No. No. So, thank you so much to Strizer and crew for having me back yet again. I always appreciate getting to do Game Over Cancer. I do want to make a very, very silly shout-out to the fact that this run was performed on April 20th. So, because it's 420 Day, shout out to Stash Man, shout out to the Game Grumps. And of course, I would also like to make a quick shout to GDQ. It turns out they had a Mega Man block going as well, so it was nice to close off this Mega Man block. And yeah, no, this is great. I will say that if you would like to follow me, my Twitch and YouTube are TempestMask1000. And at its Tempest Steve is where you can find my Twitch. I also got a blue sky for Tempest Mask. Actually, before I go, I would like to make this announcement clear that sometime this year, I'm actually going to retire the 1000 in my name. I'm going to officially change to Tempest Mask because the number was a bit of a long-time placeholder, and one that I thought to myself, it's a cool number and all, but do I really need it? So it seems that there just might be some space for that to finally happen, and I believe I will do that around my streamiversary. We'll see. But I figured that if any of you all are watching this in the future, just know that it is a change that I do plan to make. And thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. Focus, please check out Focus. He streams at Focus Site on Twitch here. Very good friend of mine. Shout out to the Mega Man X speedrunning community, and most importantly, shout out to Strizer's community. Until we all next meet, though, I will send you all back to the intermission screen, as we've still got a bit of Day 6 left, so ciao, Michi.
All right, thank you, Tempest, and thank you, Focus. Like it was said, we'll be back here shortly. Everybody sit tight. We'll see you soon.